Hey, Seth Lawrence, the WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin insurance agent in Clinton. My guest on the phone this morning is Caitlin Mellendorf, nutrition educator for the U of I Extension in Logan, Menard, and Sangamon County, in DeWitt, Piatt, and Macon counties. I do that every time. Caitlin, a good morning, and forgive me for that. I'm sorry.
You do. It's just going to be our running gag, I think.
I just need to say extension, just U of I Extension. I'll just leave it at that next time. But it's good to have you on. By the way, happy Prime Rib Day. You were telling me about this before we got started, and there's nothing better than prime rib. I mean, there's no food better than prime rib.
I laugh because we had to reschedule because I was sick a couple of weeks ago for my regular time slot, but we had talking about grilling on this segment anyway. And so when it was like National Prime Rib Day, it's a good segue into, cooking meat and grilling. And so, yeah, I think it just kind of worked out well.
I tell you what, people talk about smoking a prime rib, grilling their prime rib. I feel like I'm pretty adventurous when it comes to what I'll put on the grill, Caitlin. I just can't do prime rib, though, because, man, that is a cut of meat that you just don't want to mess up. And I feel like if anyone is going to screw it up, it's this guy.
Yeah, I don't know that I would try prime rib on a grill either, but hey, if someone can make it work, more power to them.
I think there's a lot of people that can make it work. I'm just not brave enough to join them. But be all that as it may, Caitlin, of course, it is grilling season. And just the other night, I had the grill fired up, actually. It's been some just fantastic weather to be outside and grill and just enjoy the springtime. And as we do so, of course, it's time for those annual grilling reminders as we fire those grills back up. So let's just kind of start with some of the basics. What do we need to know as we get back to the grilling season? How about that?
Well, it sounds like yours is already out of storage and you've probably done all the normal maintenance things. So for folks that maybe still have theirs in storage, this is a great time to pull it out, dust off the cobwebs, give it a good wash, check your grill grates. Do they need cleaning from last season? Maybe you had some food stuff still stuck to it. And then, depending on what type of grill you're using, do you need to restock your charcoal or your lighter fluid or whatever your preferred fuel method is? It's a good time to restock that because we're getting into grilling season. And yeah, just for right now, if you're not ready to grill, just look at general maintenance, do some cleaning, get it back in shape. Or maybe it's time to buy a new one.
Yeah, well, and when it comes to that gas grill, of course, Caitlin, do we want to do anything with our lines? Do we want to do any maintenance with the actual burners themselves and the those types of things? Like, do we need to do anything there? Can we do anything there?
I would say that's definitely out of my scope and knowledge. So I think check with maybe your local hardware store has someone who's really good with some of the maintenance on things like the lines and checking that there aren't cracks in them or that the valves are opening and closing correctly or that the fuel, everything's connected and working well and nothing's dried out or cracking. So that I would say go check with your local person, maybe a hardware store or a place that sells grills, and ask them for some ideas on maintenance. I think I'm going to outsource that question to somebody else.
All right, easy enough. Caitlin, let's talk about when we do get the grills fired up and those sorts of things. We want to have our safe cooking zones. If we're going to be throwing, say, chicken and maybe beef on for a meal, or something, maybe pork and beef, things of those that nature. I want to make sure that we're not cross-contaminating food and all of that. So let's speak to the grilling safety itself, and just making sure that we keep ourselves healthy, because that stuff can really wreck a Memorial Day outing, wreck just a weekend meal. How about those things?
Right. So usually when you and I chat about grilling, I always pull in the food safety aspect. And so we tend to talk about 4 different kind of categories of food safety. So the first one is cleaning. So we talked about, maintenance of your grill, cleaning it up, but also cleaning topics could include making sure you're washing your hands regularly, particularly when you're working with raw cuts of meat, but also if you're going to be shifting between tasks. So maybe you're working on your meat, but then you're going to go start working on potato salad or coleslaw or another side dish that is considered more ready to eat. You're not going to cook the coleslaw. It's meant to be a crunchy, crisp kind of salad, but we don't want to cross-contaminate. So we make sure we clean. Cross-contamination is that other piece where you want to separate things. So use separate cutting boards, separate knives, separate utensils for different things, and also think about separate utensils and plates for your raw and your cooked meat. So bringing out your raw steak or your raw pork, whatever you're planning to grill, and as you're bringing the cooked meat off the grill, either wash that plate that had the raw meat on it or just bring out a clean plate. And that's what you're going to use to transfer your cooked meat onto, so we're not cross-contaminating. We also talk about temperature. So pull out your food thermometer or invest in a really fun one that, has an app so you could track the rise of temperature on your phone, or one that's designed to withstand the temperatures of a grill. So you can actually leave the thermometer probe inside the meat and not have to, lift your grill up and down as much. There's a lot of really fun technology with thermometers lately. And then, of course, the last thing is leftovers and chilling anything left over. So especially for times where you may be not at home, you're out in the park grilling, or you're at someone else's house, making sure that any of your leftover foods that you want to save, bring those into cold storage, into your refrigerator at the 2-hour mark. So if you take off your meat off the grill, if maybe you're doing dinner and you take that meat off around 6:15, or 6:30, you get about 2 hours, and then move everything into cold storage. So by 8:15, 8:30, everything is packed away, and then you can eat on that another day.
Caitlin, speak to more so the importance of making sure your meat is at a good core temperature. I think of particularly pork and chicken, where you can really get yourself sick, and even beef too, to an extent. But you can really make yourself sick if you're not cooking those all the way through. I really worry about that a lot myself for my kids when I'm making them chicken on the grill and stuff. How about that? Just speak to the importance of that internal temperature of our meats.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point. We have what are considered kind of higher risk groups. So young kids are considered a high risk group. Their immune systems may not be able to fight off E. coli or salmonella or another type of foodborne illness. Seniors, their immune systems are just not as strong as they were when they were younger, so they may also have a hard time fighting off. Pregnant moms, and then any folks with chronic conditions. So maybe they have cancer and are undergoing treatment, maybe they have HIV, where their immune systems are going to have kind of struggle to fight off any type of foodborne illness. So it's really important to pull out that thermometer to make sure that we're able to test. Color is not a great indicator of temperature change. USDA has some really cool graphics that show you, I think most of them are usually steak because it has a really nice color change typically. And we can have steaks and beef that are cooked to correct temperatures, but maintain that red color. So they look to our eyes like they're more rare, but they are actually cooked. And you can have the opposite effect where you can have steaks or beef that are not cooked to temperature, but the color change has happened. They've gone from red to brown, but they're not technically at the internal temperature yet. So I'm always send people to foodsafety.gov to check out those temperatures, but we can do a recap of those. So for whole cuts of meat, so a pork chop, a steak, a pork roast, a beef roast, lamb, maybe if you're going to get a little adventurous, your internal temperature is 145 Fahrenheit. That is a little bit lower. We've had some changes in pork, especially the last, maybe 5 years or so. The temperature has changed. It used to be a lot higher. The recommendation used to be closer to 160. But for current research, we can still cook pork to this lower 145 degree Fahrenheit internal temperature. We're still killing off the bacteria that we associate with pork, and the texture of the pork also tends to be better at that lower temperature because most pork today is pretty lean. If you're doing something like a hamburger on the grill, cook that to 155 Fahrenheit, and then for anything poultry, chicken, turkey, cook that to 165. So that's kind of an easy 10 degree increments, 145, 155, and 165 Fahrenheit.
Caitlin Mellendorf, nutrition educator with the U of I Extension, our guest on the phone. I'm not going to get the counties wrong this time, Caitlin. We'll just say Extension this time. No, so with the cooking on the grill, and then of course just after, let's talk prep and after, leading up to our grilling. If we're going to season our food, or we're putting a marinade together or something of that nature. Maybe we're working with several meats. Maybe we're seasoning some chicken. We're seasoning some burgers. Let's talk prep and again that kind of cross contamination, making sure we have clean surfaces. Speak to us about those things.
Yeah, so going off of the fact that different meats get cooked to different internal temperatures, we do want to be aware of that cross-contamination. So if you do have one grill that is cooking burgers alongside chicken, alongside maybe steak, you may want to consider separate utensils for all of those. So if you're planning to flip your burgers, have one dedicated utensil just for the burgers. And if you're going to flip your chicken, have one dedicated utensil just for your chicken. So that way we're not worried about cross-contamination. Also that you're not then mixing flavors. So if you've got a different seasoning on your chicken than you have on your burger or your steak, if you're using a similar set of tongs or a spatula to flip, we also might not want to be contaminating our flavors and kind of moving, maybe one type of meat flavor to another. It may just be a very interesting combo of things when you're all done. But also thinking about something like chicken breast, very, very lean. And so you're not going to tend to see a lot of flare up on the grill if you are just doing something like a dry rub. But if you are marinating meats, or you have meats that are already pretty high in fat, so some burgers, the recommendations I've seen are for a nice burger is usually 85% lean. So we've got a good chunk of fat in a nice burger. The fat that's going to drip off and drip down on the grill grates, and especially if you've got charcoal, you might have some flare up with anything that is kind of fatty. So you may want to do more of an off-centered cooking style. So you bring your burgers off maybe to the corner of your grill grates, and your charcoal or your heat source is kind of just off-centered a little bit. So you're getting heat, but you're not allowing the fat that's eventually going to drip off something like your burger to hit those coals or your fuel source and re-flare back up. And then that's where you get the charring that we do enjoy, but not like completely charred, right? So consider that off-center cooking style as an option.
For sure. I don't know what other folks do, but I'll put like my charcoal on one side of the grill and then, leave the other side open, and I'll start it with a char like you're talking about, get that sear in the meat, and then move it off and cover it up for a few minutes and just kind of let it cook. And that's what I'll do, because if I let it sit over the charcoal, it just burns, and like the top, it's just all crusty and black. So that's something I've done a lot of in the last couple of years as well. Now I'll tell you what, Caitlin, I look at the clock. I want to ask a couple of follow-up questions about grilling and just, cleaning when we're done, food storage, those sorts of things. I want to get to some of those topics before we wrap up for this morning, but let's take a break. We'll come back with some more. How do folks follow along with you and all the things that the extension has to offer as it relates to safe cooking resources?
Yeah, so we have been redoing our website the last couple of years. So if you want to find some food safety information, head over to extension.illinois.edu/food. And the food is very much a big, broad category, but we do have some food safety information in those pages too.
Caitlin Mellendorf, again, nutrition educator, University of Illinois Extension, our guest on the phone. More to come with her here on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW. Illinois Ag Better.
Well, let's check the markets now on the RFD Radio Network. I'm Jim Taylor. Corn, beans, and wheat all in the red. May corn 6.34 1/4, down 7 1/4. July corn down 12 1/4, 5.88 3/4. December new crop 5.34 3/4, down 8 3/4. May beans 14.32 3/4, down 3 1/4. July beans down 4 1/2. 14.10 1/4. November new crop 12.62 1/4, down 4 1/2. May Chicago wheat 6.19 1/4, down 8. July wheat down 7 3/4, 6.34 1/4. May bean meal 423.90, down 210. May bean oil 51.42 down 66 cents. Livestock market, April feeders 202.70. That's up 2 cents. April live cattle 174.97 up 45 cents. May lean hogs 78.37 up a dime. In the energy market at this hour, June crude oil 74.95 up 65 cents. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network.
MR Systems Wireless is your local internet provider for Clinton and surrounding area. They have the products you want and the local service you deserve. MR Systems Wireless Internet service for home or business includes unlimited data, unlimited streaming, and unlimited calling. Plans start at just $48 a month and get a free Roku 4 lease with our media packages. Get the speed you need with MR Systems Wireless. Call them at 935-2100. That's 935-2100 for MR Systems Wireless.
Let's swing open the farm gate together every day on WHOW. I'm Stu Ellis, your host of the long-running agriculture feature called The Farm Gate. I bring the latest news and information on where agriculture is and where it's going to WHOW Ag listeners several times a day. From tariffs to treaties, from the Board of Trade to the running board on your truck, I cover Central Illinois agriculture every day on The Farm Gate. Hear it all on WHOW's many platforms, on the radio or online. Join me, Stu Ellis, for The Farm Gate.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Caitlin Mellendorf, nutrition educator, U of I Extension in DeWitt, Macon, and Piatt counties. Got the counties right that time, Caitlin. And let's dive into, in this segment, let's talk a little bit about when we are done with our food. You know, we've grilled, we've sat down for that meal, and I'm really bad about this. Putting food away in a timely manner so we can reuse it and safely reheat it for another meal the next day or later in the day, whatever the case may be. What do we need to know here, Caitlin?
Yeah, I think this is one, like, it's not a hard thing. You get a whole 2 hours from when the food comes off the heat source. So in this case, we've been talking about grilling. So when your food comes off the grill, there's a 2-hour window where we go from take it off the heat source, and then at that 2-hour point, put it away in cold storage, like your refrigerator. But with grilling, especially, we're usually having something social going on, right? We're on the lake, we're with friends and family, you're having fun. I call it bags. I know some people call that game differently, but it can get really distracting. You know, you eat your meal and then you go off and you play, you go on the lake, you do something else. And so cleanup is maybe not on your radar. So you may want to set a timer on your phone or on your watch to say, okay, at maybe, an hour and a half after all this comes off the heat source, we're going to start cleaning up. And so that's important if you want to use those leftovers. The longer you wait, the more bacteria are going to start to grow to a level that even when you reheat those leftovers, you may not be able to kill all the bacteria, and the risk of getting sick is still pretty high. So remember that in your brain, 2-hour mark, set that timer for yourself, especially if you're planning to be outside or with friends or family, or you think you might be distracted by things going on.
Absolutely. Good stuff there. Now, when we're actually done with the grill itself, Caitlin, food is pulled and all of those sorts of things. Want to make sure we clean our grill. What do you recommend in terms of grill maintenance post-cook?
Yeah, especially because the more food that's left on the grill grates, the different flavors you're going to end up with the next time you grill. So you're going to maybe have some off flavors or just some kind of funky things going on with your next round of grilling. So it's really helpful to clean as best you can. There's a variety of scraping tools that you can buy to try to get up any stuck on food or grease. I know it's going to be easier when it's hot. So I know that we don't want to do it like right away, but the warmer it is, the easier it can be to lift off some of those things. So one thing that I've done to kind of just start that process is if you've got a leftover onion, kind of rub that on the grill grate. I find that that's kind of just a nice way to kind of get lifting some of that stuff, and you don't have to put your hand too close to the grill grates if they're still warm. But yeah, definitely clean it up. I know it's not the most fun part of cooking is cleaning up, but make it important to you to clean it up. Make that a priority.
Sure,
part
absolutely.
of your grilling experience. experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you've given us a lot of good things to think about here this morning, Caitlin, and let's wrap it up with some maybe spring recipes. What are like anything that's caught your eye, Caitlin, as it relates to trends in the, spring cooking world, things to do with those, early season veggies like the lettuces and such. Anything catching your eye that we can use those for this spring that's kind of trendy?
Yeah, we're starting to see spring crops. So we've got things like radishes, different types of lettuces and spinaches. They're cool season crops that are growing now. We're starting to get into strawberry season. The end of April is still a little bit early, but we are starting to see strawberries coming soon in Illinois. And I don't know that I've seen a lot of different trends for produce lately, but it's always a good combo of things. So you can have grilled asparagus. We can even do those things on the grill. Some fruits are really interesting on the grill too. We're still kind of in citrus season from winter. So if you've got any good citrus left at your stores, try those, cut those in half, things like grapefruit on the grill or even an orange or a lemon. Try those on the grill just for something kind of unique. And then thinking about, any kinds of salads that are adding in radishes or spring onions or lettuces. It's really all about the combos. Salads don't have to be boring lettuce. Add in other crunchy veggies, add in nuts and seeds, add in croutons, add in dried fruits or fresh fruits. You can really make something really unique. And then, of course, the dressings that you add to that add those extra flavors. So vinegars are a great one because they've got real strong flavors that pair really well with salads.
Caitlin, you always bring good stuff, especially when we start talking about food and the seasonal changes and that sort of thing. I appreciate it very much. Where do folks go to find more about Extension and the things you're doing?
Yeah, so our local area, so DeWitt, Macon, and Piatt counties, you can find us at go.illinois.edu/DMP for DeWitt, Macon, Piatt. And then we're also on Facebook and Instagram, so you can find us there for local things that are going on. And then if you want more about food, things that are like blogs or events that are going on statewide, you can check out extension.illinois.edu/food.
That is Caitlin Mellendorf, nutrition educator, U of I Extension. Our guest, Network News on the way.